How do you do it without making it about you?
Man, it's a good one. I think it's being prepared and knowing your domain better than most do that you're going into. I didn't know because I didn't direct spellers. I was an editor, which is very vital to the process, but
Right.
also like I didn't know that world. I had to learn that world. I think it taught me what is possible for the future when it comes to learning those environments to be able to then put a message out. That's first. Second would be if you go in more focused on your subject and your story over the outcome or what it's going to gain you, it's 100% going to be a different story than one you would tell. The subjectivity of it, like of being very subjective about your approach, is a killer. It does not help anything. It really doesn't. I mean, the entire filmmaking process is about collaboration, 100%. I was just on a shoot where I prepped an interview for 6 days for some big talent, and it got washed right away. And I had my iPad of all my questions I've been prepping all week in research, and I looked down at it, I looked at them, and I closed it and I put it to the side. And I knew at that moment it was more about the first point I made, more about me knowing what the subject matter is better than anybody else there to be able to pivot like that. And then two, to not make it about me in that moment, make it about 100% the subject. Cause that is like, that was my prep. That was what I was going to ask. I felt proud of that outline that I had. But at that moment, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that moment. You got to pivot for the entire crew. There's a whole crew of 25 people behind me. Everybody felt the eyes on the back of my neck because it's big talent. So I was stressing. But then once you get into the edit, this is the third point. When you get into post-production, you have the ability to control where that narrative goes. And you can change it. You can change it to be something for you. Oh man, that soundbite is so good. It makes me look so great. But the second you do that, you lose people. Like you really do lose people. And that's the whole mindset that you have to get in. I did the same thing with Great Wall, the James Beard film, was in the edit for that. Me and Rio, the director of that, kind of worked together and I brought structure as a producer for him to be able to operate in. But there's a lot of outcomes to where, and potential for where certain things can go. And so it's really hard to narrow down, well, what is the best story? And I think you just have to let that leave you, and you have to just be like, I'm going to put one of the, better messages I can forward. I never know what combination, because there's so many combinations of bites or timing or things that I could put together. But what's the best way that it won't be eyes on me and it's more eyes on the talent? You can control that, and you can control that through technical things too. So I think for me though, like that's bringing it back to being in the Carolinas now. I think there's a chance now to really impact people through putting something out there that hasn't been seen.
Yeah.
It may have been done in the past, but maybe it hasn't been done in a long time. That was the whole TED thing for me and my buddy Kaipo was he came to me and he was like, hey, do you want to try doing a TED event? Because you basically apply online and all that stuff, and they vet you real hard. So it's hard to get it. But we ended up getting a license for one, and they chose Unity Park. Unity Park is the newest park in Greenville. It stands for a lot in that community. It's really like the reason they made it was a dividing line there with the river. That was historic, poor Black community, and across the river on the other side was the richy rich white community. And from that standpoint, the segregation standpoint, which is still being here, I haven't been able to fully understand it. It really blows my mind that was a thing so hard here. You couldn't really cross over that river for the Black community there. Well, Ted chooses that name, and then all of a sudden for us, it was very, very specific what the mission was going to be, to unify people. And that's kind of what we're talking about right now with film too. I mean, that's an event side of things. I'm trying to recreate an IP like that and get it as close as it's supposed to be. Everybody knows the red carpet and the stage and all, like the circle rug and the logo behind and all that. Like it has its own look, but how do you adapt it and make it your own? And Greenville has let us be able to do that. We had a successful first event. But it's all about unifying people and putting other people's message forward. And to your point, if you do that, it may seem like you're going in the dark creating something new, but if you put other people first, it does end up coming back to you to take care of you in the moments where you feel like I'm really sacrificing a lot here to do this. and you're a family guy. I mean, I'm stoked for that opportunity for me and my wife at some point, but you know, with kids and all that stuff, it's a risk to do what you did. But that's the serial entrepreneurial thing that we do when we're convinced of something.
Mm-hmm.
But if ego's aside, I think it does happen faster. Because if you're only if you don't adapt and change and you're only focused on your viewpoint, you're not going to grow fast enough to make that thing a thing. That's what a lot of filmmakers do. They front a ton of cash, their entire savings account to make a film, which makes no sense to me. Because if you just got a crew to do sweat equity on it, and then everybody gets a percentage on the back end, that would work a lot better. And you'd have an incentivized crew, and you didn't screw up your life. Like, you didn't mess up your lifestyle. I think that's really important. So others first.